Chapter 16, Hats. Cass couldn't get used to seeing so many jester hats. There were red ones, green ones, velvet ones, and felt ones. Some were oversized and long pointed ends stretching out like antlers. Some were small, economical, not much more sustainable than the skull cap, but had brass bells, others silver. And yet, as widely varied as the hats were, all bore a teasing resemblance to a certain hat that was hovering at the edge of her memory. Three-pointed ends, flapping and flopping, this way and that. She'd seen a hat flap and flop in just that way. The bells jingled and jangled, and the wearer's every step, and she heard bells jingling and jingling. And just as the tone and tremble, she was more and more convinced she must have found the jester at some point during her journey. Why else would the bells on the hats ring so many bells in her head? But where? When? What did he say? Things only got worse when they got to the camera obscura, a small round windowless structure that stood and rise near a certain center of the fair. Their guide, Opal, or Lady Fool, as insisted upon being called, was wearing not only a jester hat, but also a diamond-patterned harlequin outfit, not unlike the one the jester might have worn. Though, to tell the truth, Cass couldn't imagine the jester's outfit being decorated with rhinestones. As Opal led the group into the dark interior, her hat bells taunting Cass with the jolly jingles, Cass suddenly remembered hearing the jester's bells jingling in a similar room. A dungeon. That was it. The royal dungeon. She was right. She had met the jester at least once. Or was her mind playing tricks on her? The camera obscura, that was about the same size as the Dijon cell in Cass's memory, was much more crowded. There was about 3 classrooms worth of kids, and here one wall was illuminated with the exact image of the world outside. Opal stood in front of the wall, holding a stack of cue cards. You are now inside the camera, a big camera, that she read, her Nussy New York accent in full effect. In fact, this was the first kind of camera ever invented. Cass blinked as she looked at the image on the wall. She had a sense she was hanging from her feet, looking at the world upside down. The ground was the sky, and the sky was the ground. Customed fairgoers in wizard capes and fairy wings walked around the dirt sky, apparently weightless. And the picture upside down, or am I dizzy or something? She whispered to her friends. She grinned mischievously. What are you talking about? Looks right side up to me. That's not funny, whispered Max Ernest, who, although a month had passed, still have expected Cass to fall back into a coma at any second. What if she really was dizzy? It could be a sign of something was seriously wrong. I think it's supposed to be like that, Cass. Oh, said Cass, only somewhat relieved. She hadn't wanted to tell her friends, for fear they would make her go home, or worse, go to the hospital. But she really was not feeling like herself. It wasn't just the jester hats. All morning, ever since she had woken up from the dream about the green eye, she had a sensation that she was in 2 places at once, or maybe that was between 2 places, or was hard to pinpoint this sensation exactly. You see the little hole? Opal pointed to the quarter-sized hole in the wall opposite her. Light streamed over it in the cone shape, as if it were a lens in the movie projector. Light travels in a straight line, so when light rays pass through the small hole like this one, the rays cross, flipping the image upside down. I bet you could make one of these yourself, Yoyogi. It might be helpful in a stakeout. Yoyogi was right. You can make a camera obscura yourself. It just so happens that you will find instructions to do so in the back of this book. Silence. We will not tolerate any more noise, said Miss Johnson, who was standing on the other side of the room, flanking by Amber and Veronica, her ladies in waiting. Pray continue, Lady Fool. Yes, Your Majesty, said Opal. Such rudeness in your royal presence momentarily shocked me into silence. The secretary bowed and continued reading. In the Renaissance and after, artists of many very famous ones used camera obscuras in order to paint more naturalistically, and he traced the image it was projected. With all due respect to the secretary, I believe the plural of the camera obscura should be a camera obscure. Right. In other respects, her account is correct. Nobody is sure how many artists used the camera obscura, but Leonardo da Vinci wrote about them in his notebooks, and Vermeer was widely believed to have used one. Somebody gasped dramatically in the darkness. They traced it. So you're saying all those famous artists cheated? She cried out. It was Amber. She didn't seem outraged so much as gleeful at the thought. In fact, it was what Max Ernst had been thinking about hearing Amber say was made him wonder if it might be wrong. What is the cheating? Pietro's words ranged in his head. There is no cheating in magic, only in poker. A few feet away, Benjamin Blake coughed and started mumbling, yellow, cheating, pencil, orange, oven. What's that, Benjamin? Did you have something to say to your schoolmates? Asked Opal. He mumbled again, and the crowd of students tittered. Max Ernst started pushing his way through to Benjamin. Ever since the night Cass woke up from her coma, Benjamin had been trying to talk to Max Ernst as well as to Cass and Yoji, but they all had been given him is known the cold shoulder, for obvious reasons. As far as Max Ernst could tell, however, the blow to his head from Yoji's guitar had cured Benjamin. He no longer was suave and insolent dandy. He was his old, erratic, artistic, synesthetic self. Hopefully this meant he was no longer under the Midnight Sun spell. I don't know why I'm doing this for you, Max Ernst whispered. You owe me. Then he started translating for the room at large. Apart from being an expert decoder, Max Ernst was a mumbler himself, and he'd always been very good at interpreting sounds. Benjamin made that is the old Benjamin. Ben says the artist didn't cheat. The camera obscura is just a tool. It's like the writer using a computer instead of a pencil, or a cook using an oven, I guess, as opposed to a campfire. Miss Johnson wasn't buying it. Perhaps I'm an old-fashioned, but we are with the ladies in waiting. Cheating is cheating, she said huffily. This sounded rather as if she were about to march out of the camera obscura in protest. Instead, she walked in front of the illuminated wall. Upside-down image of the outside world flittered across her, making the tiara on her head sparkle and black pendants around her neck gleam. So much else to see, nobody seemed to notice the pendant was floating ever so slightly in the air. Next thing you know, they're all defriending forgery, he declared, patting down the pendant. Now, students, we want you all to start exiting quietly and single file, not like a bunch of heathens. Small room erupted in noise, and all the students tried to leave at once. On his way out, Ben tugged on Max Ernst's sleeve. Thank me later, said Max Ernst, pushing away from him. Can't talk now. What's that around Miss Johnson's neck? Asked Cass when Max Ernst rejoined her and Yoji with all the clamor around them. She couldn't speak almost normally without being overheard. Yeah, that's... Why does it look like it's floating? Asked Yoji. Because it is, said Max Ernst. It's a lodestone. A naturally occurring magnet. Cass scratched her head. I knew that, but how did I know that? Miss Johnson is obsessed with the magnets now. You should have heard her talk about them when I went there to get the tuning fork. Cass had the double monocle out of her pocket and suspiciously looked at the lodestone pendant through it. Although there were at least half a dozen arms and shoulders in the way, the monocle gave her a clear view. She stared at the black stone, and it glowed blue and appeared to be pulsating. Cass felt a tug on the monocle, pull towards the lodestone, the matching tug on her memory. I have seen that stone before, said Cass, amazed. Another object from her journey past appeared to be in the present. It looks different, bigger, rougher, rounder. But it's the same stone. Since being in two places at once intensified suddenly, she couldn't bear it a second longer. Feeling totally claustrophobic. I gotta get out of here right now. But her friends couldn't stop her. She started pushing through the crowd and rushed out of the room. Excited whispers followed in her wake. That's the girl that was in the coma. Do you think she's okay? Maybe she's having a relapse. She's going to be fine, said Max Ernest angrily. He then started pushing his way out after her. He followed. You guys wait up. You know you might actually need me sometime.